am the acting city manager, and Lyle's actually the acting police chief. He left that out.
Oh, yeah, that's what I thought.
And Sean Irvine, I'm the economic development director for the city.
Amanda Christensen, HR manager.
Patrick Bonnelly, Community Services Director.
Kathy Martin Wallace, city councilor.
Nathan Christensen, committee member, and I guess just put it out there for the record, right now my wife is an hourly employee at the Heritage Museum, and this will be my second year.
Tom Pecos, I'm on the city council.
Nancy Lodge, I was on the city council. And I've been currently a citizen of Independence.
Karen Johnson, city recorder. Jessica Porter, 5-year resident, 4th year on the budget committee member. Shannon Core, city councilor.
Gerald Fisher, Public Works Director.
Jason Kissler, IT Manager and Resident.
I'm William Webber. I'm a local business owner and a budget committee member for, I believe, 3 or 4 years. 4 years.
Dory Shaw, budget committee. Couldn't tell you how many years.
Well, we're glad to have everybody here today. And the first thing we have to do is we're going to have to select a chair and a secretary. And I'll tell you, the secretary doesn't have to do anything other than go, Karen, did you write this all down? And when Karen goes, yes, that's it. And so that's the role of the secretary. But Dory was the chair last year, and we usually have a citizen member who is to become chair of the budget committee, and we need somebody.
I nominate Dory again.
You good?
I'm good with that.
Everybody else good? All right, without objection, you are now the budget committee chair again. And who wants to be the secretary?
I nominate Bill.
Great job. Bill, is that good?
Why? I was going to say Jessica since she spoke first. Sure.
There you go. Anybody object to Bill being the secretary? Without objection, so ordered. Madam Chair, please just follow the agenda and away we go.
Away we go. Let us do a review of the agenda and the budget calendar. And I think the only agenda we've got is page 1.
We're good.
All right. We don't have any additions to this agenda, do we?
No, but I would like to tell our listening and viewing audience how to review the budget online. And if you go to the city's website under government and then under commission and board, under that is budget committee. And then you'll find the proposed budget document at that spot.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. Okay, any other things under review of budget or view of agenda? Hearing seeing none, we move on to the approval of minutes, May 26, 2021. Those if you flip over are 1.2 through 1.5. You'd like to take the time to read them, or if I hear any motions to approve.
Move to approve the minutes as submitted.
We have a second.
Second.
It's been moved by Kathy Martin Willis, seconded by Nancy Lodge. Discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, approval of the minutes, May 26, 2021, under A. Urban Renewal Agency approval of minutes. Well, that is 1.6, 1.7.
I'll move to approve this as well.
Have a motion to approve. Second. Motion by Kathy Martin Willis, second by Nancy Lodge. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Budget presentation.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so I just have to jump in and do a quick preface, I guess, on the budget tonight. So I wanted to let you all know that this year we started the budget process clear back on February 10th, which is a lot earlier than normal. And by mid-April, we had a solid draft budget, what I would consider to be a solid draft budget. And this year we worked very much as a team, which isn't always the way it is done. And this year we stretched Gloria a little more and had one document in SharePoint that all of the people that were working on the budget had access to that saw the entire thing, and questions were welcome. So I will say I took a responsibility, having been kind of thrown into the interim city manager role, for the process. Like I wanted, and that's why we had to start so early. I kind of feel bad now, but you know, starting in February, I was like, we've got a budget. Well, I'm probably going to be doing this. We got to get going. But I will say Gloria took 100% responsibility for the document you're going to get today and really stepped up to tolerate me and the rest of the team as we work through it. So thank you, and it's all yours.
Thank you. So I'm going to just read through the message, and then I'm going to give you kind of a little highlight overview of the budget document. It is our pleasure to present the proposed fiscal year 2022-2023 budget for your review and approval. This balanced budget reflects the results of the post-COVID-19 pandemic economy and continued growth of our community. For fiscal year 2022, our current fiscal year, we expected a greater negative impact to city revenues. However, most have kept pace with prior years and exceeded budget expectations. With the infusion of federal funding through the American Rescue Plan Act, we have been able to provide assistance to our local community and businesses in a well-positioned financially for fiscal year 2023. While the city's current financial position is stable, we are faced with continued supply chain issues, a general inflationary environment, and expected increases in interest rates. Increasing costs, which exceed revenue streams, continue to limit the resources available to provide services to the community. For these reasons, we have taken a conservative approach, moderated our assumptions, and worked to sustain quality services with limited resources. The Vision 2040 process was completed in spring 2020 after significant public engagement. In February 2021, the council set goals that supported and prioritized the implementing actions identified in Vision 2040. This proposed budget is in support of those goals and priorities listed below. The Independence Housing Strategy, the Southern Arterial, local medical facility and health services, communications and outreach, independence, support network, expanding sports fields. The fiscal year 2022 and fiscal year 2023 budgets allocate funds for staff and projects that accomplished a number of priority actions for these goals, including we received a State of Oregon grant to help develop a housing needs analysis, which will be completed in fiscal year 2023 and is a necessary first step toward creation of a housing strategy. We completed an update to the transportation system plan and launched a system development charge SDC rate study. Hired grants writer to help us further our goals by leveraging ARPA funds with other government granting programs. We hired a full-time communications position to implement the recommended changes and prepared written and video content for community communication platforms. Council approved an IGA between the county, the city of Monmouth, and the city of Independence, whereby the county will establish a community resource office that will serve as a hub for many resource providers. We funded a study examining the development and operations of the sports field complex. Staff will continue to work toward achieving the council and community priorities. Operational and budget changes. The American Rescue Act and new grant fund, the influx of CARES and ARPA funds created a significant resource to support the community's emergence from the COVID crisis. Half of the city's allocation of approximately $2 million in ARPA funds came in August 2021. and the other half will arrive in August 2022. Staff have worked to create and implement programs to help businesses and residents who were impacted by COVID-19. The city is also actively seeking to leverage its ARPA funds as matching monies for state and federal programs to enable construction of key infrastructure projects whose cost would otherwise be borne by residents. This work takes significant amount of effort and is reflected in the personnel section of this message. While the influx of federal funds was welcome, these one-time funds created significant fluctuations that make it harder to see the base budget, particularly the general fund, and ensure that it was sustainable. With passage of the American Rescue Plan Act, it became apparent that the situation would span multiple years. At the end of 2021, finance staff pivoted our financial reporting and created a separate grant fund, which would allow a separate, transparent tracking of these monies and ensure the base budget would be accurately evaluated. For our staffing, an unforeseen impact of the pandemic has been the difficulty filling and refilling budgeted staff positions. Businesses, industries, and institutions across the nation have had trouble finding qualified applicants and filling open positions, and Independence is no different. The issue has affected all departments, and we expect hiring and retaining staff to remain a challenge in the next year. With the COVID crisis fading, staff are fully involved in normal activities to best serve the city, while also applying for, creating, and implementing COVID support programs. The unfulfilled budgeted positions have made it difficult to maintain expected levels of service in fiscal year 2022. In addition, we are already seeing success securing state and federal funds for critical infrastructure projects. And those projects will need to be implemented and managed. This presents a difficult challenge as decisions will have to be made on priorities even with additional resources. To help mitigate the staff resource issues for fiscal year 2022, we added the use of one-time monies to bring on temporary positions that will be paid for from the grant fund. 2 of those positions were not filled until late winter 2021-22, and the 1 position remains unfilled. This budget includes the addition of a new utility worker position, which is identified in the city's 5-year staffing plan. A seasonal public works employee is also identified to help with events, mowing, and miscellaneous summer duties. Additionally, the public works director has restructured positions within his department following the retirement of the public works supervisor in February of this year. Cuts in the finance and building department 2 years ago have caused workflow issues that have continued through fiscal year 2022 with an unfilled accountant 2 position. To help with this, the code enforcement officer position was repurposed as a code enforcement officer / planning and permitting technician working under the senior planner. A communications coordinator was also hired to fulfill the council goal and help the city better interact with residents. The temporary positions in the grants fund help with the staffing issues, but there are still significantly higher than normal demands on existing staff that will likely continue to require prioritization. You'll see in the budget message that we are showing the planned staffing and staffing changes. I want to note here that the code enforcement position used to be provided by the police department, and we have moved that under the planner and building community development department. Cost of living adjustments are set in collective bargaining agreements and reflected in the proposed budget. For fiscal year 2022, COLAs for non-represented employees was 1.5%. The consumer price index for our region of Oregon rose to 7.5% for the period of January 2021 and January 2022. to January 2022. We are seeing several municipalities around the state providing COLAs as high as 7% to 8%. The fiscal year 2023 budget includes a 4% COLA for non-represented employees and for represented employees, pending final negotiations. These adjustments are below many other municipalities in Oregon of comparable size demographics. Our revised personnel allocations, and this is probably the most significant part and change in the budget that you'll see. The greatest change in the proposed fiscal year 2023 budget is in the way we allocate the cost of certain general fund administrative and finance personnel, as well as administrative overhead. Previous budgets accounted for these costs in an overhead transfer. For administrative and finance staff time and administrative overhead costs directly related to the transportation and utility funds, this proposed budget allocates those expenses directly to the funds that utilize them. Consequently, you will see increased personnel costs in the transportation and utility funds and a corresponding decrease in various departments of the general fund. This new method of allocating costs is a better representation of where time is truly spent. Included in the budget document is a chart showing all positions and where they are allocated within the operating funds. In addition, there is a chart comparing the personnel services costs in total over the last 4 years. The Independence Landing development is now complete and fully occupied. And this is the first budget where we begin to see the financial benefits to the city. The transient lodging tax revenue collected by the city is now expected to fully support the Tourism and Events Fund, which previously relied on general fund revenue. Property tax revenue from this Independence Landing development will allow the Urban Renewal District to completely cover its debt. Fiscal year 2023 will also mark the beginning of the Urban Renewal District paying back its loans from the general fund. The Urban Renewal District will pay back $492,549 to the general fund in fiscal year 2023. Osprey Point is expected to be completed this year, and there are other development projects under review, which will increase the Urban Renewal District's rate of payback in future budget years. In fiscal year 2023, the Public Works Funds, Water, Sewers, Transportation, and Stormwater will pay off most of their existing interfund loans. Staff has provided a chart showing the interfund loan activity for fiscal year 2023. There are now no new interfund loans anticipated. This will free up additional cash in subsequent budget years to put toward infrastructure projects and reduce the need for new debt. Prioritizing transparency about the status of the city's current debt, we have created a section in the proposed budget that identifies all city debts, their payment schedules, and their sources of repayment. This includes the MyNet debt, which is expected to be fully funded by MyNet this budget year. As our auditors noted, Independence has an appropriate amount of debt and sufficient resources to make all required debt payments. Our future challenges: labor costs will continue to increase due to required payments to the public employee retirement system. With an increase in fiscal year 2021-2022 and another anticipated increase in fiscal year 2023-2024, the city will continue to set aside monies in preparation for the expected increase, or to fund a per site account, which the legislature is considering. Health insurance is also a factor in the increased labor costs that all sectors of the economy are facing. While utilities are largely self-sustaining, storm drainage and transportation remain areas of fiscal concern for future fiscal years. Master plans underway or in the next fiscal year will guide the city in creating long-term financial plans to ensure these funds have sufficient operating capital revenue. While the completion of Independence Landing has offset several costs typically borne by the general fund, there continues to be the need to explore revenue sources to support transportation needs and general services such as police, library, museum, IT, and parks. Looking to the future, there's a significant need for additional IT support. We currently have only one full-time position in the IT department, and with the volume of work that needs to be performed, there is no time for him to attend the training that is required to maintain his certifications and credentials. Funding for this service is critical with the continued integration of technology into city operations and the continued growth of cybercrime and ransomware attacks. In summary, many people share in the responsibility of ensuring the city's ability to provide high levels of service, undertake significant capital infrastructure investments, and achieve a strong financial position. Through the collective efforts of the City Council, residents, and staff, Independence has become a model community in the state of Oregon for its efforts in technology, innovation, and strategic expansion. The pandemic has hit the nation, state, and the local economy hard in some areas and not at all in others. Flexibility will be key in working through the financial issues created by COVID-19. This budget respects the previous work and provides flexibility during these challenging times. Staff has performed professionally, creatively, and collaboratively in preparing this budget, and we thank them for their challenging work. But the job is not finished. We want to thank the City Council and the Budget Committee for their time and dedication in reviewing this budget and ensuring the priorities set forth in the fiscal year 2022-2023 best reflects the objectives and priorities of the Independence community. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Does anybody have any questions for her?
I do have a question, actually. So regarding the labor costs and that being the greatest increase being due to PERS, my understanding is that the Oregon Act that was passed for paid paternity leave kicks in 2023. Has that been budgeted for as well for labor costs?
We did not hear about it until just like a couple weeks ago. We had already had the budget done. And so I believe that in contingency, there is going to be enough to cover for that. If it comes down to that, we do have a significant amount set aside in reserve for the PERS side account. And we could utilize that temporarily if we need to do it in a supplemental this year.
Regarding the staff size and the amount of work that the staff has to do, has there been any real comparison with other similar sized cities and looked at how their staffs are aligned and how large or small they are? And has there been any kind of comparison? Are we just kind of doing the best of what we got, or are we not staffing appropriately?
This year, we certainly did no comparison like that. We staffed with what we had and kind of struggled as we go through the budget to kind of maintain the status quo the best that we could.
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry. No. Oh. Does the police department still have authority over code enforcement? Why did we decide to transfer code enforcement to the budget or to the building?
I'll take that one. So we transferred part of what you knew as code enforcement over to planning. And our traditional code enforcement person, Sue Alvey, the full-time person, did a lot of work that was really building and planning department related. And it was enforcing rules that we in the police department weren't necessarily that comfortable with or familiar with. So we still have a code enforcement part-time person in the police department that is handling everything that is on public streets and dog related. Those are still with the police department. If it's tall grass or if it's on private property, so more of a planning type environment, then it's being shifted over to the, we're actually probably going to change the name of it even because there's been some confusion internally about code enforcement living in two places. So today we talked about code services being the name of it when that work is being done in the planning department. And it will be probably only less than half of the person's time will be spent doing that. The other time really is needed in the building and planning department. Once I got up there, it was really clear that they needed more staff. They just didn't have the necessary staff that they needed.
Has that position been filled
Which position?
in the building department code enforcement?
Yeah, we did hire someone. His name is Frank, and he's been with us less than a month, I'd say, or right at a month perhaps.
Do other cities, and this is probably go back to, do other cities hire out for IT instead of having their own person?
It's a mix, but I would say for the majority, it is in-house. Especially considering that our police department is certified. Is that the way you're accredited?
Yes.
That they're accredited, and it requires a significant amount of IT services and oversight. And then two, because of all of our systems and the size of the city in itself, we are better served by having it in-house.
You don't always save money by contracting out either.
Right.
Particularly in an emergency situation.
We previously contracted out, and I really pushed hard to get us a full-time IT person. We were using Polk County, and they were unable to manage the workload of this building. That's why we had to do it. When we moved from Little City Hall to this building, they were like, we're out, we can't do it. And so we were lucky enough to get a person that's, very available to us and has just kept it up, even though it's probably more than a one-man job or one person job.
So with the code enforcement,
Mhm.
then if we can still access through IndyWorks.
Yes, IndyWorks is still.
And then they'll, at the other end, they'll decide whether or not it goes to planning or to police.
Exactly. IndyWorks actually makes that decision for us based on the request that you're making. It
Okay,
routes it to the right department, depending on what you're putting in it.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Quick question. What's the difference between the representative and non-representative?
Union contract is represented. So our public works and our police department are represented, except for the management department head staff.
Do we have any other questions for Gloria? Let's go on to capital improvement plan.
Well, forgive me, this is the first time I've done this with you folks, so Gloria, on this, am I supposed to be going to the back in 6.5?
Yeah, just kind of give give the page reference and just kind of like a high level overview and just take questions.
So back on page 6.5, the Parks Capital Improvement Plan, I made some changes to the structure of the CIP as much as I could in the titles of the projects. I put what project numbers they are as referenced in the master plan. So you'll see that in parks, transportation, and in the sewer CIP. Water is currently underway right now, and we should have that adopted by next spring. When we update the CIP, I'll put those project numbers in there, followed by stormwater. So you'll start seeing project numbers tied to the master plan, which if you want a lot of detail, you can go back to the master plan and see what's going on.
I'm sorry to interrupt. You said 6 where?
6.5, page 6.5, it's back.
Mine doesn't go that far.
On the very bottom.
It's in section.
Yeah, section 6.
Mine ends at 6.
Yeah, mine goes to 6.3 and then it jumps to section 7.
Anybody else need one?
I've got it online.
Oh, okay, it really is a 6.5
Yeah.
number.
Okay.
Oh, so they're trying to.
Right, so
He wants to go.
6.10.
Okay.
Yeah, see. Okay, so you
We're
get
just not
30.
going to 42.
You get there.
Yeah, apparently some of these.
Anyone else?
are-
Anyone else?
Sort.
Okay.
Oh, no, not either.
Interesting.
Next time.
Okay.
Oh, right.
You're right.
So it's out of order. It's there, it's just, yeah. Did I find it correctly? But, yeah, I'll trade.
You're right.
We probably should have been O5.
I don't know if it's in order.
I'm out.
No, no, you're safe.
Does she need an assistant?
This is probably some university sociology project that we probably didn't analyze or something like that, or part of a study.
Has everybody gotten there?
Yes, at least, yes, I have. Your
Okay.
problem child.
Yeah, that just makes all kinds of trouble.
So if you look on the left side column, the lines, what I've done is I've organized them towards the top if they're current ones and later ones towards the bottom. They have the project names and you'll see project number 11.3F for the Independent Sports Park. That's what it's listed as in the master plan. So the projects that we're looking at for this fiscal year, this upcoming fiscal year in parks is the Independent Sports Field, South Riverview Park, the Mount Fur Park Inspiration Garden, Sunset Park, final construction, that will actually be multiple years, and then pool house improvements. Are there any questions on that?
Two of those don't have project numbers?
The pool house does not, and the South Riverview Park, I couldn't find a project number in the map.
What do we plan on getting done with $15,000 of the independent fields? Independent sports field?
That is to do the
It's the remainder of the feasibility study.
feasibility study, thank you, for the sports park.
I thought that was with last year's budget.
We ended up crossing, maybe just the length, since once the contract got started, the length of time it was gonna take, it was gonna cross budget years, so we essentially just took 15,000 and put it into the next fiscal year to, as sort of the wrap up payment for that.
But we have no intention of proceeding any further on that project this year than finishing up that.
I guess that's, once you have the report done for the feasibility study, then it goes into a policy discussion.
Yeah.
City council.
Where is Sunset Park?
Sunset Park is between 7th and 8th, and 8th and 9th,
8th and 9th.
and.
It's in the southwest section, the new
Yeah.
houses down south.
South
Brandon
south of
Meadows.
Chestnut.
Down 7?
Yeah,
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Brandon Meadows
Gotcha.
area.
Thank you.
Behind Jason's house.
Yeah, behind me. I can't walk that far.
Any other questions? Okay, let's jump forward to page 6.11. It's the transportation section.
When is that F Street Bridge going to be finished?
This summer.
This summer?
Yes.
By the end of this summer?
No,
Beginning of
it's
this-
about the middle of the summer.
The middle of.
Yes.
That's right. I missed that bridge.
I hate to give out a date because if they go past that,
I'll be there.
yeah.
We'll have a ribbon cutting.
Yeah. Oh, good, good. Can you invite me to the ribbon cutting?
Oh, I'm setting it up now?
Okay.
Sure.
So in this fiscal year, this upcoming fiscal year, we have the completion of the F Street Bridge Replacement Project. That will be closing out construction, wrapping up all the paperwork with the state because it is a grant from the state. We'll be finishing up the street SDC update or system development charge update. We have our proportionate share of 26,000. It's put in the same amount over the next 3 years, for Hoffman Gun Club Road Safe Routes to School. That project is run by Polk County with ODOT. It's one that we participate in, but we're not the lead agency on it. So we just have to make sure that our match money is in there each year to cover the costs. And Fifth Street Bike Boulevard and 4th Street Circulation, these are ones that are actually being run by planning. They're going after grants to do feasibility studies for safe routes to school, bike crossing, bike and ped crossing of Monmouth. And down towards the bottom, there is a number for the Southeast Arterial Mount Fur Avenue extension between Corvallis Road and the West City limits. This is basically a number put in that if we are able to get grant money to do planning level, or there is opportunity out there for federal money, we have money that we can start working on that project and potentially build that in. Opportunity money. Is what it is. Any questions on transportation? Next page is 6.18.
Where are we going? I'm sorry.
6.18.
Where's the trolley and all this? Just, we were just chatting about that.
That is,
It's mostly in Monmouth, but we have a little bit of leftover money in ours.
so I don't have project numbers on this one because we're working on the water master plan. The projects for this upcoming year are, we're currently working on it, the water master plan and water management conservation plan update, the water SDC methodology update and rate study. That'll happen after the adoption of the master plan. Water pH study and balancing implementation corrosion project that is currently underway. The Willamette Wellfield joint pilot test with Monmouth. We are working on that one with Monmouth right now. We're having difficulty getting in touch with the Oregon Health Authority. They have a huge amount of work going on and not enough staff. So we're still plugging away on that. We're working on the design of the Polk Wellfield and anticipate construction in this next fiscal year. And then we also have numbers in there for the Monmouth Independence intertie, a second intertie between the two cities' water systems. We don't know where that's at yet. What'll come out of the water master plan for the best location for that is. Questions about water?
Go back to the transportation one just briefly. I'm sorry, I saw something. I just flipped pages. Number 14, traffic calming. What is traffic calming?
That is just the project name. It could be flashing signs, it could be chicanes, it could be a traffic signal, it could be a roundabout.
Water, what exactly is meant or intended by the Independence Monmouth intertie?
So right now we have a physical connection between the two cities' water systems. So if one city loses its wells or has a problem or a major fire and they need additional water, we can open up that connection and share water with the city through a meter connection. So but it's a very small one. So what we're looking at is putting in a larger connection somewhere else in the system where we can tie the two together. So if we do need to feed more water to them or vice versa, we have that ability.
So it's more intended as emergency services?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
so emergency connections.
I'm looking at the cost of that reservoir.
They aren't cheap. The next one is wastewater on page 6.25. And wastewater is where I'm going to be spending the bulk of my time for probably the next 5 years. We have a lot of work here. So we've finished the wastewater master plan update. We're working on the sewer SDC methodology update. Once that's done, we'll do the sewer rate update. We are currently finalizing the 9th Street Pump Station Phase 1 project design. It's going out to bid in June. This is a Clean Water State Revolving Fund loan project. It's the last project in our current loan that we have with DEQ, and we're anticipating finishing it by the end of next fiscal year or shortly after that. The other one we'll be working on is lagoon biosolids removal. This will be a multi-year project. We're hoping to be able to do it year-round. From what I understand, biosolids have not been removed since the construction of the treatment plant. So we have a lot to take care of. And then the other project is on line 8, the C Street clay tile sewer. These types of pipes were put in like the 1930s. They're basically clay pipes that are just butted up against each other. So when you look at them in a video, they have water pouring in the side from the groundwater. We have to treat that water, and it costs us money to treat that water. So this project is to completely replace that so we can seal up that system and not have to treat groundwater. Questions on sewer?
I do, actually. Along Highway 51, who is responsible, the City of Independence or the state, on teaching and enforcing businesses that are not following code in like gray water disposal,
Gray water disposal.
like when it's going into the storm drain?
Well, if somebody's discharging a storm drain, that's actually a violation of city code. We would want to know about that. They should get a hold of me at Public Works so we can investigate. It depends on what it is, where it's coming from. But yeah, you're not allowed to dump into the storm system. You're not allowed to dump your trailer sewer tank in like they show in some movies. We have to, especially because we're so close to the Willamette River, we have the potential of having a significant impact to the river. So protection of the river, Ash Creek, and our storm system is a really high priority.
I was curious because when I followed up, I know that the business had been contacted, but I have repeatedly gone by and they are still dumping gray water in the storm drain. And then I was told that it was possibly a state issue because they are on the state highway.
No.
Okay.
It's our storm system.
Okay.
So.
As long as it's in our town. I mean, is it this side of Stryker Road?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, when I say 51, I'm talking where it turns and goes up over tomorrow.
Yeah, if somebody sees that happening, I need to know about it.
Downtown?
We have what's called a total maximum daily load or TMDL permit with the state that deals specifically with stormwater, and we are under rules and regulations. If we don't address that, the state comes down on the city.
Okay.
Are you talking about food trucks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any other questions about wastewater?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the lagoon treatment system, is there like a maximum population capacity for that style of system?
So that system with upgrades, a new headworks, cleaning of the lagoons, and putting in aeration and upgrading the chlorine contact basin will get us through the next 20 years. I can get in really deep on wastewater treatment, but we'll save it for another time. If we do the things that are listed in here, we have enough capacity.
And when you say 20 years, that's based on estimated population growth?
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't good news like that 5 years ago, was it?
No, it wasn't.
No.
The news has changed.
No.
The news has changed.
Yes.
It was pretty grim 5 years ago.
We got a new public works engineer.
And so new numbers.
My prior life was dealing with lagoons, and before that it was mechanized standardized plans.
Great.
So, yeah.
I'm happy to
I
hear
know
that.
both sides.
1 year.
There is no stormwater in there because we have no stormwater projects. I left it out. I believe that it was really pertinent. If in the future you'd like to see those back in there with a bunch of zeros and then stuff later on. The reason why I didn't put it in there is we really can't do anything until we get the stormwater master plan done. And that will tell us what all the projects are. So. Okay.
Any other questions for Gerald on a overview? Thank you. Thank you. Let's go back to Gloria, presentation of budget, please.
So at this point, I would like to check in with the committee and the chair and see how much more information you want from us tonight. Or do you want to take the budget and form your questions?
Yeah, I personally, my preference is to take the budget home and all the way up to the last possible minute I can, going through it 3 or 4 times before I shoot out my email questions. Plus, when I read the email questions, I get to see all my questions.
What?
When I get to read the other questions, I realize that my question's already been answered, but I wasn't the only one, so makes me feel better.
So, okay, so what I would like to do is just kind of get some document familiarization, because we have added a few things and make sure that you're able to find the information. So if you'll turn to 4.18. Everybody find that one? Okay. So we did this like ahead of the second meeting last year and put this together based on questions that we were getting. And so I put this all on one page. We kind of cleaned it up, make sure that it's more understandable, kind of vetted it out with the rest of our staff in order to, hopefully you'll be able to get the information that you're looking for out of it. It shows us the balance of all of our debt and all of the payment sources and what the payments are for the last 4 years, and including our proposed budget. The highlighted is, it's a big number, but that was a refunding and that kind of skews those numbers. So I highlighted it, pointed it out, just because we know that, it looks funny. It looks like a big payment was made, but it wasn't. It was just a refunding and reduce the amount of interest that will be owed on that loan. Bonds.
Lori, to clarify that chart on the left, that's what we're expecting to pay back in debt that year, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So fiscal year 2023 in our proposed budget, those are our loan payments for the year. Next, if you'll turn to the top of that section 4. Yeah. So page 4.1, 4.2. You've seen this one before, but it's, I think we've cleaned it up a little bit more. This is all of the interfund loan or interfund transfers, and they total out to match. They match each other income and outgo. And then on 4.3, because I know that a lot of the interfund loan information that we've provided in the past hasn't been very clear and it's not easy to follow. And I've left those items in this one, but I've also summarized it here on page 4.3. This tells you the year that those loans are planned to pay off according to our amortization. And that's the far right corner or far right side. Those are the years of the payoffs that we've anticipated this time.
Oh, yeah, on the interfund transfer on 4.1, the top one.
Yes,
For the urban renewal debt service, $211,000. And then the next box over is urban renewal debt transfer in. Why are those transfer out, transfers in different amounts?
okay, so the transfer in on urban renewal debt, you'll see it coming from the general fund. And if you go down to the water fund, you'll
Oh,
see,
gotcha. So I have
and
to
then
add
the
those up.
sewer fund,
Okay, all
yeah.
right, gotcha.
Next, we talked about the personnel services and how we've reallocated a lot of our personnel services. So in order to show that we haven't increased our personnel services or increased the number of people that we have more than what we have stated in the budget, I put together this chart on page 5.1. And this shows over the last 4 years, including our proposed budget, how much personnel services costs have changed. What's that?
So just to be clear, like if you look at administration, I just will point this out. In 2022, it was $945,000, the top line. And in 2023, it's $370,000. That's because of the direct allocations that are being made in all of those other funds for the administrative positions in the city. Just making sure, it took me a minute to wrap my head around this, so I will help you guys.
Can you explain that one more time?
Yeah, so the administration line includes the city manager, the finance director, all of the staff in the administration department. And it used to be that all of those salaries, that $945,000 for last year, was paid out. And then there was this separate transfer done from the what we would call the enterprise funds, like sewer, water, all of those funds that are little businesses of their own, back. And this year, instead of doing that, a percentage of people's wages are directly sent to the different funds. So if you go down to sewer now and see last year it was $458,000 and this year it's $601,000. That's not because we added sewer workers. That's because we're paying those other employees of the administration some of their costs. And there's a chart that she'll get to that explains that breakdown. That was that big change that she talked about that is happening this year. Instead of those big overhead allocations, we're putting the actual resources where they're being spent.
Was it broke down for transparencies in other places?
Yeah, she's gonna get to that, I think.
No,
I think,
did that
no.
make sense to the
We used to do that. Bob, it seems like we used to do it that way. As an example, city manager's salary would be allocated like 8 different directives, 8 different funds, because that's the way he worked. And it would be the way that the budget reflected too, is that we show all those different.
So for the
allocations.
last,
And so it's been changed from that,
It has been not that way
it has been not that way.
for 7 years, 6 years,
No.
longer.
longer,
Longer.
for 11 years. It's not been that way. So it got changed and it changed from that, what you used to see, into those overhead transfers.
Okay, that's right, the transfers, which is
Right.
really confusing.
So we've reduced those overhead transfers
Okay.
in order to more clearly reflect the
Right.
costs of
Right.
associated with water, sewer, storm, and transportation.
Sounds like I might have misspoken. That chart that I've
Right.
seen isn't in this budget.
Yeah, so the allocation chart,
But there is
the
one.
allocation chart is not in this document, but I will send it out tomorrow for everybody so that you can see it.
That would be
It's,
great.
it just shows the percentages and how of staff and how they're allocated in the various budget.
Yeah, because this doesn't show transparency.
No.
At all.
I thought it was in there. Sorry. go ahead.
Yeah, I thought I had gotten it in there too, but.
We
so
intended to
that'll
put it
come
in
out.
there.
So
That
that'll-
counts for anything.
Watch for that in the morning. We'll send that out. Great, thank you.
That does seem to support the intention though to like more sustainably track over time how much each department is spending.
Right.
So that makes sense.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Does that provide, present more paperwork for the individual employee?
No.
To track his time or anything? Okay.
No.
Public Works people have always had to do that.
Yeah.
And
The
it's
city
just done
manager
as
has to do that?
percentages. So they're not, the administrative staff isn't like doing a detailed timesheet saying I spent, 3 hours on this fund today and 2 hours. Public Works people actually do that. Like when they're spending their day, they have to kind of allocate it out. But this is just gonna have some percentages that are for the whole year.
Okay.
It is, it's one business billable hours to another. Each one of them is an individual business.
Okay, good, okay. Thank you.
I can see how that would work for public works, but I'm not understanding why that would be beneficial for administration. I mean, you'd think for transparency, you would just want to say this is exactly how much the city pays for administration, instead of saying, well, go look in sewer, because there could be a percentage based on.
Oh, if you want to see wages, I think those are provided here. I was just talking about the percentages that we're breaking them up from. So an example is, the reason administration exists up there really is to run utility billing. That's a big part of their job. So they bill water and sewer, and that's really why those positions are there. So instead of being paid for by general fund administration, they should be being paid for by the business of, sewer or water, because that's the billing that they're doing, collecting those revenues.
Yeah, the
And that's-
utility billing clerk who puts together, manages, and gets out all of the utility bills, that's water, sewer, and stormwater. So they're doing a lot of work for Public Works versus Public Works hiring a physician to do that. I'm paying finance or an accounting firm from the street firm and the water firm and the storm firm to do that work for me, so that I don't have to have that in-house, and the other department has to have one in-house, and the other department, we can use businesses or basically contract with that business to do that work.
It's more like how other entities do it, other cities especially, that have utility funds and provide utility services. They allocate a lot of their overhead staff, which would be administration and finance people. They allocate directly into those funds. That was it on kind of new things on the budget. So go ahead.
5.4 and beyond might begin to answer some of the questions where it has literally like library assistant one, office assistant.
Yeah, I wasn't concerned about the wages individual people are getting. I was just concerned about, so now in sewer doesn't actually reflect the sewer costs, it reflects sewer costs and administrative costs, and how do you divide the two? So the chart, I think we got the chart.
But
That
those
will
are the
help me see
administrative
this.
services serving sewer, so it is a sewer cost.
Yeah, so yes. And
But you
hopefully
said that
that
you just
should
divided
help.
the percentages out,
Right.
right? And so that's why
Yes.
I would like to just
Yeah,
see
for
how
sure.
the percentages.
Yeah, I agree.
We intended to
I'm glad
do
that's
that too
coming out
tonight. That's our
tomorrow,
bad.
so.
Before this budget, you had seen it in just that big number that came out of water, sewer, storm, and transportation. Down on the bottom, it was called an overhead transfer. And it wasn't based on any particular number or percentage. It was just a transfer from those funds to the general fund. So this more clearly shows what it costs to operate each of those services.
Have any other questions from the budget committee or staff or council?
I have one more. In here, because I haven't reviewed it, is there a section in here that talks about how we spent the ARPA funds, and how will, if we get ARPA funds for this next year, affect this budget that we're looking at?
On something else that I've added. So if you go to, let's see. Go to page 3.34. So you see on, you see the normal information that you usually got. On top of that, 3.34 is a summary, written summary about what's happening in that fund and what we've done and what we're planning to do.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
And there is ahead of each section, so reserve funds, general fund, all of the public works funds, you'll see these narratives so that that will talk about what is planned, what's been done, and kind of give some information about the numbers.
Any other questions? So at this point, we are all good with going ahead and taking our budget books home, but someone prefer more details. Yep. Look at that, I'm like, no, you dare ask that person.
The staff is gonna be here next week for some questions.
Yeah. So if everybody could have their questions back to me and send them to me instead of Karen by Tuesday morning at 10.
Is that
And
enough
then,
time for you to collect
yeah.
the information?
Yeah, so email your questions to me. We'll compile those questions and the staff will work on the answers. And then we'll present those at the next meeting next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Okay, now there was something I was going to say and I totally forgot.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
What date?
Tuesday at 10 a.m.
Tuesday.
Thank you.
Tuesday at 10.
So Bob, how did you like it for your first time?
That was great, except for that one mistake of not having our percentages in there, but we'll fix it.
Yeah.
Wow, in an hour. Great job, folks.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
You have something to say, John?
No, I'm just.
I am ready to adjourn.
We're waiting for a move to adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
okay, so Councilor Martin Willis, motion to adjourn.
Well, technically, it's not an adjournment. It's a
Oh,
continuance.
a continuance. Yes.
So
To a
next time.
date certain.
Right, time certain, yes.
Yes.
25th at 6:30.
Aye.
That's right. 'Cause adjourn.